G'day viewers, how are you? Hope you were doing well. Hope you don't mind my sort of lounge chair approach to things. But like I said before, I am what I am. Like it or, as my stepsister loved to say, lump it. Like it or lump it. She loved to say that. So anyhow, in all seriousness, what I wanted to speak about briefly is witchcraft among us. The spirit of deception. Yep, it's amazing and it's true. Let's take these off for a second, just so you can see what my face looks like without glasses. So, something that I prayed about as a relatively young Christian was called, well, it's to do with spiritual gifts. There are certain spiritual gifts that a Christian can possess. And I did an actual course on spiritual gifts to determine what my particular spiritual gifts might be or would look like, and prayed into that I would desire these spiritual gifts and God would grant them to me. And the Bible actually says that to desire spiritual gifts, and it actually details the spiritual gifts that are kind of available to Christians. And one of them is the gift of discernment, or discernment among spirits. Yeah, so it allows Christians to determine whether a spirit is a spirit of God or a spirit of the world, or potentially a spirit of the devil or demonic spirit. So you can discern, you can tell the difference between a good spirit and a bad spirit, to use simple layman's terms. But as I said, it's more like determining what is a spirit that is of God or of the heavenly realms, like an angelic spirit, a spirit from God, or one that is worldly or demonic, or of the devil. So, and those spirits can manifest themselves in a variety of different ways. Something that I've encountered recently that I wanted to share with you is, I suppose you could call it witchcraft, deception in physical appearance of people. So I can see, because of the job that I do, which puts me in contact with members of the public on a frequent basis, that and I'm required to obtain people's photographic identification. So photo ID is a prerequisite to check into a hotel. For most hotels these days, I think you have to provide a photo ID. And I'm getting different forms of ID presented to me. I mean, not all of them are totally kosher, or are not suspicious. A lot of IDs are suspicious, highly suspicious. And I have had people present me with photo IDs that just look like they've been photoshopped. Seriously, they've taken a photograph of an ID, be it a passport or a driver's license or whatever, and then they've photoshopped a facial image over the ID to create this kind of photoshopped copy, fake ID. It's so dodgy, But I mean, we have to accept ID at face value. We're not like, a government organisation or something like that, or a law enforcement agency or something like that. That's not our function, So we're not the police. We're not the ID police. We've just got to accept people at face value. But I can see, obviously, if you get somebody presenting you with a photo ID and you look at the photo ID and then you look at the person and you see two completely different things. You look at a photo ID and you see this glamorous, magazine kind of image of a female, and then you look at the person who's standing in front of you, and you see this person who's hideous. Their face is marked, they look haggard, they look ugly. Like, it's the difference between a model and a witch. Literally, that's what it is. The ID looks like a model, the person standing in front of you looks like a witch. Okay, I mean, this is the spirit of discernment. That's what I'm saying. The Christian who has the spirit of discernment can see what this person standing in front of them really physically looks like. Not the spiritual false appearance that they're able to project. So what I'm suggesting to you is that, call it whatever you like, call it witchcraft, call it black arts, use of demonic power, use of demonic spirits, whatever way you want to understand it, they are able to project an image to other people, not to me, because I can discern that spirit and I can see the true appearance of the person, not the false projected appearance. So when they show me this fake ID, I look at it, and quite often the fake ID will come from, not directly from the person themselves, it'll come from their boyfriend or their girlfriend. So their boyfriend or their girlfriend sends me an email of their ID, and you look at it and you say that's not them, not at all. That's like a glamorous magazine photo shot. But that's not what they look like. I'm looking at somebody who looks like a witch or a hag. It's like, is this what their partner thinks they look like? Is that what they think they look like? Because they've been completely deceived and blinded spiritually. So yes, there are people practicing witchcraft among us, among other things, sorcery, black arts, and only people who have spiritual gifts like the spirit of discernment are able to tell the difference, are able to actually see the true physical appearance of people. This is a matter of faith. I mean, either you believe these things based on faith or you don't believe it because you don't have faith. Faith, basically the definition of faith, is a belief in something that you're unable to see the proof of it. Belief without a concrete proof in something. It's like likened to trust. It's trusting something is true, is real, without having to be without it having to be proved to you with, loads of evidence and stuff like that. Christianity does provide loads of evidence, believe me, but the concept of faith is a matter of the heart more so than the mind. So your faith comes about as a change of heart. It certainly did for me, a change of heart rather than a change of my mind. Nothing could really change my mind, but at some point my heart changed and then my mind followed. And once you go down that path of realizing that the reality you're presented with in the world is not what it appears to be, that there are spiritual forces at work that can alter the physical reality that we see. I mean, these kind of concepts in some way are presented to us in film and television, in science fiction, things of that nature, like the movie The Matrix. But I'm not talking about being sort of hardwired into something such that your whole reality is kind of artificially created in your head. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's more like a reality that's spiritually projected into your mind, or into your mind's eye. It's able to deceive your senses. So you look at something and you cannot see the truth of it. You can only see the lie. How exactly that spiritual process works, I don't know. But I just know that it works because I've seen it. I've seen the evidence of it countless times. You know, and I'm a rational, highly educated person. Spent 6.5 years at university. You know, you don't get to qualify for an arts degree and a law degree if you're an irrational person or an incompetent person. You can't do it. So the facts speak for themselves in that case. I'm a normal functioning human being, you know, who holds down a job 5 days a week, who supports myself independently of other people. You know, I'm not suffering from a delusional state of mind. I function completely normally, but I see things from time to time completely differently to other people through the spiritual awareness that I have. So like I said, you could have 10 people come through the reception and check into the hotel, and 9 of those 10 people will show me their ID, and I look at their ID and I say, oh yeah, that's that person. You know, there's slight differences. You know, they might be slightly older in person rather than in the picture because it was taken a few years ago. There might be slight cosmetic changes to their appearance. They've grown a beard, they've grown a mustache, whatever. You know, you can see those slight cosmetic differences, and they're natural and obvious to any person. Yeah, I'm looking at the same person. There's just been a few slight changes. They haven't had a haircut recently or whatever. They changed their hairstyle or something like that. Yeah, so I see that. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, the ID will match. Photo ID looks like the person standing in front of you. But there's one time when it doesn't. Now, if I had a delusional state of mind, and I know from personal experience, because there's been people in my family that have suffered from delusional episodes, from mental illness that's been brought on through stress and mental breakdown and crisis in their life, that the chemicals can imbalance in the brain, and you can end up experiencing hallucinations, both auditory and visual. But if you experience a psychotic break and end up schizophrenic, at that point, everything you see, everything you hear, becomes delusional. So you're constantly in a state that's deluded. So you're seeing things that don't exist, you're hearing things that don't exist. But it's happening all the time. You know, it's like people that have described to me being on some sort of hallucinogenic drug trip. You know, like person on LSD or something like that. They're hallucinating, they're seeing things, you know, they're riding a motorcycle over a rainbow or something, you know, in a dream. But it's a reality to them, kind of hallucination, you know, but it happens all the time or over a long period of time. In the case of drug hallucination, it lasts for a period of hours or whatever. In the case of a mental illness, it doesn't, it never stops. They're constantly in a state of delusion. So it's not like they're going to look at 9 times out of 10 and see reality. For the person who's either on drugs or has a mental illness, 10 times out of 10 what they see is a delusion. It's not real. None of it meshes with reality. So this is not that. It's not either of those cases. So what I'm seeing 9 times out of 10 is that the photo ID matches the person. But let's say, for argument's sake, 1 out of 10, but it's actually less than that. It's less than that. It's fairly rare that you see this. But let's say on the odd occasion, you look at a photo ID and you see something that's completely wrong. It doesn't match at all. The person standing in front of you looks hideous in comparison to the photograph. And yet the person standing next to them looks normal. And in physical appearance or attractiveness, they're a match for the photo ID. They look as attractive, in relative terms, as the photo ID that's presented, the photoshopped photo ID. You say, okay, they would make a good couple in a kind of dream reality. Like if she looked as good in reality as she does in her photoshopped ID, then they'd be a match. But in reality, this guy is going out with a witch. But he doesn't see it. He can't see it. So this is a scary reality for people out there, I know. And it's going to be hard to get your head around something like that. That not everything is what it seems in the world. In fact, there's a huge amount of deception out there. So all I can suggest is, if you're a Christian and you want to be open to these spiritual deceptions, pray about it. Pray about the spirit of discernment, being given the gift of discernment, and then you will see for yourself. If you're not a Christian, I'd encourage that you become one. Pick up a Bible, start reading it, do a course like Christianity Explained. You don't need to go along to a church and be Bible bashed by a bunch of hypocrites who just want your money. Do a course on it. Just get educated about it. That's all you have to do. Okay? God bless. See you around. Talk to you next time.